Well, we can do this. This will let us draw. I was kind of hoping for something better off of the Field Musician's draw, but... Happy expansion day, everybody. The time has come for us to try out some new decks. We get new cards to play with, new champions, and I'm really excited. So before we dive into the deck that we're going to be playing today, let me just start by saying that if you want to jump straight to the games, you can do so with time tags. If it's your first time, consider subscribing, blah, blah, blah. But also I need to say that this was really hard for me because there were 4 decks that I wanted to play as my first YouTube video. Now, tonight when I'm streaming, I'll probably check out all of these in some way, shape, or form. But ultimately, I'm kind of having the most fun with Irelia thus far. So for today's day 1 video, we're going to go with Irelia Azir, this one over here. But probably tomorrow, we're going to check out Yasuo. And I've got a kind of silly Teemo deck and all sorts of things that I want to do. But for today, we're going to be diving in and taking a look at the version of Irelia Azir that I've been running. I do also plan on doing a Misfortune version at some point, but I fell in love with this one because it is criminal how fast Azir levels up in this list. And there's also some really crazy things that you can do specifically with Syncopation in this list. Now, that's not to say that you won't be able to do those things in a Misfortune version, because obviously this is going to follow Irelia wherever she goes. This is one of the most powerful cards in the game, in my opinion, right now. I would not be shocked if in the future this ends up costing 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. So first, let's go through the list. As always, deck code will be in the video description. Link to Mobalytics will be in the video description, but we have Dune Keeper, one of the best 1-drops in the game. We're playing Azir, pretty straightforward. Sparring Student is a bit brittle. It's a bit fragile because it is just a 1/1, so it dies to things like Vile Feast and so forth. However, once you develop your board, this becomes the kind of 1-drop that late game you're still pretty fine with drawing, because when you're swinging, it becomes like a 4/4 or a 5/5 regularly between Azir, between Deus, with the blades and so on and so forth. This card really ramps up. It's kind of scary. So I love Sparring Student right now. Emperor's Deus, we're an Azir deck, but also the Deus triggers when you blade dance, and that is fantastic. Duo loves all of our Sand Soldiers, loves all the blades. It's also an elusive unit, so if they don't have an elusive blocker, it's a great way to trigger your Azir pretty safely. Again, there's a lot of potential issues with a list like this because many of the units are pretty easy to kill. This is a list that doesn't really like to run into Avalanche, for example, but you do get cards like Deus and Azir that can survive those kinds of AoE removals. We've got some cards like Twin Disciplines to maybe keep your units alive or push more damage, and then obviously good old-fashioned Deny. I might change up some of these in the future in terms of their numbers when the meta starts to settle, but right now we're kind of taking a shotgun approach and going with a little bit of everything. 2, Lead and Follow. This is here because you can recall your Blade Dance units. It also gives you the Flawless Duet, which is itself a Blade Dance card. You can also save some of your key targets. So if somebody tries to Mystic Shot your Irelia, you can potentially save her with the Lead and Follow. It's also nice. I got the one of Shadow Assassin just to kind of round out my curve on 3. So it's nice to get even a trigger there as well. But really it's so you get extra mileage out of those Blade Dance units. Speaking of Blade Dance units, Ribbon Dancer. Pretty straightforward. It does what we want it to do. Syncopation. Okay, so this card is silly because it allows you to, in combat, take things off of your bench and put them into play. And the reason that matters is that later on, when you have a leveled Azir, it's possible to have some pretty insane board states where suddenly Azir just sitting on your bench, because maybe you don't want to put him in harm's way, becomes like a 6/5. And so when you're swinging with a bunch of Sand Soldiers, yes, they can chump block a bunch of them, but if one of them goes through, then you can Syncopation Azir into the open slot and suddenly you're hitting the Nexus for 6. So this card, not only does it help you dodge removal, not only does it help you push damage, but this card lets you ambush your opponent as well. This might be my favorite card in the game right now. I adore this. All right. Also at 3 here, we've got Azir and Irelia. Pretty straightforward. They are the reasons we're playing this deck. One of Shadow Assassin I mentioned before. Really, it's just to help round out the curve. It's also a little bit of card draw, some more elusive presence to maybe again help your Deus and your Azir push those sand soldiers. Running 2 twin disciplines. This is about potential burst damage and trades. So if somebody does try to chump block a soldier, maybe you get value out of it, and it's just removal at that point. Or the +0 +3 can help save you from other removal. It's also nice to have some spells because we're going to be refilling our spell mana quite a bit. I'll get to that in a moment. Blossoming Blade, Blade Dance, and kind of nutty Blade Dance at that. It's not uncommon. Like if you've played Deus into Azir and then you're playing Blossoming Blade on 4, like you're just playing a 3/3 and getting 4 attackers instantly. It's very, very satisfying. Even when it's not effective, this card is just very satisfying to play from hand. 2 of Deny just to bail us out. And then I'm currently running 3 Field Musicians. So this is what I was talking about with the spell mana and why I wanted to try to run some level of that. It's entirely possible that maybe this assassin becomes even a 3rd discipline or some other spell to take advantage of it. But Field Musicians is great in this list. Between Azir and Deus and the Blade Dance, once this comes down, this basically says like draw an extra card each round and refill your spell mana. So you can do some pretty fun, some pretty silly things with even just a single Field Musicians on the board. And then the top end, obviously Inspiring Marshal, great with blades because it triggers them, great with your soldiers, just kind of great with everything in the deck. So this is the list. Again, said it once before, but we will repeat it, deck code in the video description. And now that we've got that out of the way, let's go play some games. All right. Noxus Azir. That's rather interesting. Rather interesting. I like our hand here. I don't think the discipline stays. We at least have a 1-drop. Irelia on 3 might be fine if we end up banking our spell mana on 2. Really like getting Field Musicians running for the card draw. And we get the Deus instead. So actually, as weird as it sounds, I think that we do not go Sparring Student here. I think that that is a mistake because we're going to want to go Deus on 2, Irelia on 3, but we still want her to use her Blade Dance. So we're going to take a good chunk of damage early on, but the goal is that our hand allows us to potentially catch up on the like round 5 attack. That's the goal anyway. Going into 5, we'll have options, but... Oh. Okay. Alright, that's gonna change the dynamic a little bit. I was not... that is an aggressive, like, I hate Irelia play. Not what I was expecting at all. Reaper looking to punish us. We'll still, I think, develop the Musicians.
The Emperor commands, the land obeys.
We play for the people and sing for the land.
And then next round, probably going to be Sparring Students into Ribbon Dancer.
Sand and blood.
Don't like your tone.
I think we'll try this. We could be punished by something like Transfusion for the +2 or Brother's Bond, I suppose, but we're down to 8 and they're still at 18. But this is theoretically when we're supposed to turn the corner.
Ready, willing, and learn.
It's entirely possible they're just sitting on like double decimate to absolutely shred us, which would feel awful. All right, so let's go with this. This boosts the Sparring Students.
Your time and cycle is done.
Okay, I get it. This is actually a relatively tempting deny just because we actually don't want to take that amount of damage. I think he'll let this through though. We need to force a trade on, I think, at least one of these. And I think I'd also rather save the deny for like an actual decimate.
The dark closes in.
Or something like this. I think this is the appropriate deny. Going down to 3 feels really bad. Force them to get rid of the Reapers. Next round on 6, we actually get to Deus into Blade, potentially. Or not just dead, anyway. Here's a Decimate. Oh, no. Well, we can do this. This will let us draw. I was kind of hoping for something better off of the Field Musician's draw, but... still lets us do something like this. All right, so this tells me that they've got another Fervor because they don't want to lose this, which is unfortunate because we're dead to that. Otherwise we win. Like, it's legitimately, if they don't have the burn here, this is a pretty easy victory. We have the syncope. Oh, they didn't have it. Woo! Okay, not what I was expecting, but we'll take that victory. Let's see if we can go do that again. Looks like we're gonna be up against Yasuo, Malphite. They did decide to include the Zoe. I was a bit torn. I feel like 2 Malphites, 1 Zoe is probably correct, but I think my current version is just the 3 Malphites because I wanted to play the new card. This goes back for sure. I think we keep the others. The downside is when we summon Irelia, we won't actually have the option to Blade Dance if we play our 1-drop. And so we actually, as weird as it sounds, have to consider whether that's something we want to do or not. I think we do. I think you still go with the 1-drop because Duo allows us to potentially push 4 damage. It also means Sunhawk hits that, so we can still get this in. All right, we'll go with the Irelia anyway. Interesting. We get our duet. So we could go with the instant Blade Dance, but we're gonna be super greedy here. What we're concerned about in this situation would be like, I guess Fangs into a Crescent Strike here is actually pretty bad. I was gonna say like Yasuo into nuking one of them, but oh, they've got a Nopify, huh? Well, well, well. And they took an Equinox. That is honestly a bit brutal for us. I think we go ahead and attack like so then. At some point we're gonna have to deal with his Fangs. That was a good round for them. That's just that deck doing Targon things. Targon doing Targon things. The decision we have to make right now is whether or not we want to develop the Marshal or the Musician with mana back for lead and follow. Musician combining with Blade is also really nice, but I think you just kind of have to play the Marshal here. It's a good defensive body as well. We know they have something. Kind of just wanted to make them use it. Deny's kind of nice here. She's only at 3 of 12, which feels a little bit bad, but we've got some good opportunities here, so we'll go ahead and do this. Triggers our Deus. Sparring students starting to go off in the back. Duo starting to go off in the back. They could have the landmark at 5, but they've already played something, so it wouldn't be Daybreak. In this case, they're just going to go with a Palm. And I think in this instance, we just actually want to go ahead with the lead and follow because it gives us another duet. So we're going to go student into the duet because it's just silly fun. So this goes up to 9. So we'll level Irelia here because we still have an attack coming. Love the level up animation. And with 2 mana available, they have the Steel Tempest over there, but because we sent everything, we're gonna get it done. So I got to see the explosive turns I was talking about, which is why I think this deck is a lot of fun to pilot. And that's going to be likely a really weird jump cut. One of the boys decided to come in and start asking Daddy a bunch of questions right in the middle of him recording the end of that game. So if you did make it this far, I was about to say this is the end of the video. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Let me know what kind of decks you're looking forward to, what you're most excited about with the expansion, etc., etc. I may have already said that. I don't remember. I'm just re-recording an outro to say that I love you all. So until next time, may you walk on warm sands.